Welcome to the Authentic Change Podcast. I'm Mike Horne, your host, and this podcast is for leaders and coaches who need and want fresh perspectives on what it means to live and to lead authentically. You're a leader who wants to make a difference, but sometimes you feel stuck. You know there's more to life and to leadership than what you're currently experiencing. It can be tough to figure out how to grow as a leader. You might be reading all the blogs and books, but it still feels like you're not making progress. You might even be feeling like you're doing everything wrong. On Authentic Change with Mike Horne, we interview experts who share their insights on how to live and lead authentically. Our guests are trendsetters in building great leaders, teams, and organizations. We provide fresh perspectives on what it means to live with purpose and authenticity. Welcome to this episode of the Authentic Change Podcast.
Welcome to this episode of Authentic Change with Mike Horne. This is episode 100. It's the last episode of season 4 of Authentic Change with Mike Horne. And I am absolutely delighted that we have reached the near 2-year mark of a weekly podcast as we are now at episode 100. And what I thought I'd do is something special for everyone in our listening audience. And that was to create 2 highlight episodes from season 4. First, looking at episodes 72 through 85. And then episode 101, the beginning of season 5 of Authentic Change with Mike Horne, will feature highlights from episodes 86 through 99 of Authentic Change with Mike Horne. It's just been a great season. I am so delighted that we've been able to bring this podcast together for nearly 2 years to offer it on a weekly basis. And for everyone who is a return listener, I would appreciate your reviews, your ratings on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you can leave them. It really helps with marketing our podcast. If you're just tuning in as a new guest because you saw it with season 4 highlights, welcome. So delighted that you're here. And also would appreciate your reviews. I'd love to have a strategy call with you on executive and organization development. But this episode 100, is a major milestone for Authentic Change, the Authentic Change podcast with Mike Horne. And again, I'm absolutely delighted to have everyone on this journey. But let's talk about what you're going to hear in episode 100 today and the highlights that we'll hear. First, so again, we're going from episode 72 to episode 85. Authentic Change episode 72, the greatest indicator of successful leadership, with Dr. Toby Travis. And one of the things that Toby said that absolutely resonated with me was, without a high level of trust in those who are in leadership positions, organizations do not experience the kind of growth or success that they desire. So true. And it was a great way to begin season 4 of Authentic Change with Mike Horne, speaking about trust, leadership, and growth and success. That moved us right into episode 73 with Dr. Beth Banks on architecting change. And what Beth said is that if you're just using AI to sort through resumes and then kick out the 5 that have the exact words that you're looking for, then you're missing lots of potentially great employees that could bring even more to the workplace than somebody who will figure out what words you're supposed to be using. It was a great reminder and a powerful illustration from a successful author and teacher, Dr. Beth Banks on architecting change. And one of my favorite episodes in season 4 was early in the season with John Sanders, episode 74, The Optimizer, building and leading teams of serial innovators. And John brings a wealth of experience in that regard. And he said, as leaders, no matter what business you're in, you're tasked with leading change. So true. It is one of those evergreen sentiments I think that I hold, and John expressed it so well. As leaders, no matter what business you're in, you're tasked with leading change. And we move right into episode 75 with Gina Riley. Gina is the creator of the Career Velocity System, and the episode had the same title. One of the things that stuck with me from my interview with Gina is she said, there are many things that derail people in the career transition process, ranging from I can't tell my story, so they get stuck or they misfire and they burn out their networking connections. For those of you who are thinking about networks and networking, it's a great episode 75 with Gina Riley. But we move right into a delightful episode 76 of Authentic Change with Mike Horne, the Next Level University with Kevin Palmieri. And listen to Kevin, one of the kings in podcasting. Kevin said, "I fell in love with podcasting as I was falling out of love with my job." So for anyone who's interested in a sort of social history, the business of podcasting, the experience of podcasting, episode 76 is a delight with Kevin Palmieri. And that takes us to episode 77, Career Tuning with Fatima Mirza. And Fatima Mirza said, again, picking up on an AI theme, very popular in the development world, career development world, and the career search business. She said there are a lot of AI tools out there that can help you with your job search. So true. And it was a great reminder of how we begin to tune our careers. Taking us to episode 78 and Brenda Pack on building inclusive workplaces employees love. Brenda speaks about her experiences in some organizations where she said, in each of these work cultures, I felt very much like an outsider. As a woman who is also a minority, it didn't feel like a safe place to work. And that was a very common thread throughout. So listen to Brenda's powerful story in episode 78, Building Inclusive Workplaces Employees Love. Taking us to a guest I was delighted to have on Authentic Change with Mike Horne, Hortense la Gentil in episode 79 on connecting your true self with the leader you're meant to be. And I think she said something that maybe epitomizes the entirety of Authentic Change with Mike Horne. And her statement was, you have to be aligned if you want to be authentic. A good, powerful reminder expressed elegantly by Hortense la Gentil in episode 79 of Authentic Change with Mike Horne. Moving us right into episode 80 with Laurie Smith and Unleashing Presence, stepping into the power of your voice, something I do all the time on Authentic Change with Mike Horne podcast. Laurie provides guidance by stating, in order to be understood, we have to let others see us and understand. It's a very powerful episode with Laurie Smith, episode 80. Episode 81, again, we were on a theme here. Mike Acker joined us on an episode called Speaking Authentically. He said, sometimes it's the doubt that it's even possible. Sometimes it's a lack of desire. Sometimes it's this mindset of, well, not me. I couldn't do that. And it's this victim mentality. And sometimes it's the external obstacles. Mike really gives us a great look into how we speak authentically. Moving us into episode 82, Asking, Building, and Connecting. Messaging strategies with Douglas Spencer, who's an expert on branding at all stages, from individuals through organizations. Doug brings some of his wisdom here in this quote. Data showed that millennials in particular will change brands if the brand's values aren't aligned, that they will take a pay cut and work for a company that is more in line with what they believe and who they are. Very powerful episode on branding, and particularly for those of you who are interested in personal branding. I had the privilege of speaking to Robert White in episode 83, Architecting Transformational Leadership, with the author Robert White. He said something so elegant. The basis of leadership is good relationships, because leadership is about creating something new, about an interruption. Very powerful about being excellent in leadership. Taking us right to 84, episode 84, a great episode with the author and teacher, Professor Dr. Jan Fried, leaving a breadcrumb legacy. And she says, if you have a vision and you have a plan, then it's easier to let go. It was really a delightful way to begin to think about legacy. And we move into episode 85 with Beth Ridley, who said, we think of diversity in the United States in our episode, Organizational Culture Consulting with Beth Ridley. She says, when we think of diversity in the United States, we tend to start and end with the visible things that we can see, race and gender, which are really important. But I think if people really want to get the most out of your talent, you've got to really appreciate everything that makes people unique. So it's just a delight and a joy to have all of these guests, including Beth, but Dr. Toby Travis, Dr. Beth Banks Cohen, John Saunders, Gina Riley, Kevin Palmieri, Fatima Mirza, Brenda Pack, Hortense la Gentil, Laurie Smith, Mike Acker, Douglas Spencer, Robert Wright, Jan Fried, Beth Ridley. A delight. Thank you to all of our guests on season 4. In episode 101 coming up, we will feature highlights from the remainder of season 4. That'll be episodes 86 through 99. And that will happen in episode 101, the beginning of season 5 of the Authentic Change podcast. We are scheduling guests and booking guests through season 5, which will take us through the end of 2023. I'm looking forward to your continued listening to the Authentic Change podcast with Mike Horne when you're able to tune in, maybe out on a walk, in the car, on the way to the office, or at times when you prefer to listen to your podcast. Very exciting for me to have you on this journey. We're now ranked in the top 15% of Podcasts Worldwide, Global Podcasts Worldwide. I would really appreciate your likes, your reviews, your comments, your ratings on Google, Spotify, Apple, wherever you can leave comments about Authentic Change with Mike Horne. So please enjoy the highlights from episodes 72 through 85. I'm going to let the speakers, Dr. Toby Travis, Beth Banks Cohen, John Saunders, Gina Riley, Kevin Palmieri, Fatima Mirza, Brenda Pack, Hortense la Gentil, Laurie Smith, Mike Ocker, Douglas Spencer, Robert Wright, Jan Freed, Beth Ridley, speak their own truth in the following clip. It's about 10 minutes or so. And you'll get to hear them in their own voices. And I encourage you to revisit. Again, thanks for all your likes. Thanks for all of your encouragement. Thanks for all of you who have been guests on Authentic Change with Mike Horne. But always appreciate having your suggestions. Please reach out to me. You'll find it in the show notes, mike@mike-horne.com. Delight always to hear from you, or to schedule a strategy call with me to talk about your executive and organization team development needs. Be sure to reach out to me at mike-horne.com. So until the next episode, when we begin the launch of season 5 and recap of the second half of season 4 in episode 101, until that episode that will come sequentially next week, stay well. And I look forward to your listenership throughout season 5, but in particular through as we move to episode 101 of Authentic Change with Mike Horne. Once again, stay well until the next episode. Enjoy this clip of the highlights from the first half of season 4 of Authentic Change with Mike Horne.
Life is about relationships. You know, we're on this planet as a community, and in our organizations or in our groups, whether we're talking about our family groups, our church group, our work group, wherever it is that we, the club, whatever your community is, life is about relationships. And what we find is when we are, as the word has been used so frequently now, when we are mindful of ourselves, we have that emotional intelligence to recognize our own weaknesses, our own susceptibilities, and then we can extend that to others. Wow. Then relationships get healthier and deeper. And again, organizationally, we see a lot more investment.
The most important thing is stay the course. You know it works. You know that it's really important to understand the business of change as well as the business into which you're introducing change. And practitioners that understand change, whether you use one methodology or another, in many ways, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you have the basic principles of helping organizations see how this change will be successful and how it's going to happen through their people.
It turns out you have problems inside your company. People know what they are. They know how to deal with them, as a matter of fact. But many times, without that permission, that feedback loop, that accessibility to have these conversations, that information is going to remain hidden for maybe forever. And so opening that door, asking for their feedback, taking action on if it makes sense, letting them know why you can't take action at this time if it doesn't make sense, maybe at this particular moment. And lastly, if you take their idea, give them credit for it. If you can go through those stages, that is just I found an incredibly powerful way to enable people to really join this journey of innovation and change.
You have to get centered on your own storytelling and unique value proposition, so you don't have to worry about, all of that. Stay measured in your approach. Use a job search strategy that works. Do not spray and pray. If you bother to spend your time to apply to a job that you see visibly online, you should be immediately networking toward decision makers and using a measured plan to do that. You do not just apply because you're probably not going to get a call.
As a masculine human being, I used to think vulnerability equaled weakness. But by definition, vulnerability is difficult. And something that is difficult requires strength. So now I've shifted that where I think the more vulnerable I am, the realer I am, the more relatable I am, therefore I can help more people. And the more courage I ultimately show. That's how I feel about it now.
The biggest piece of advice I would say is that your answers have to change for each job. Like you can't copy and paste the same answer. What their hiring needs are going to be is going to be different each time. So even the question, tell me about yourself, you have to only tell the parts of your journey that are hyper relevant to their hiring needs. The second piece of advice that I would give you is that an interview is a conversation. The more you can dig for information about what you're expected to achieve and accomplish, the more you can kind of speak to that with your interview answers and show them that you're the best fit for the job.
When I meet with C-suite executives, the executives are still predominantly white male. And they're of a different generation where things were done differently. And so I'm going in as a younger female Asian, startup co-founder and telling them, hey, DEI actually matters in today's day. And they don't understand it. They're saying when they were growing up, they didn't have, these issues. They didn't have this need to, focus on diversity. It doesn't feel like it's really a business need. How is this increasing profitability? And so they just don't feel that need. And so even if employees at the bottom and maybe middle management who are younger are yelling DEI, DEI, it's not really reaching the ears of executives at the top. And so I think that's where the gap is.
If you want to make a change, it's exactly like when you work on a muscle, you have to work on it every day, because if you don't, you go back, to the other behavior because you are so used to do it. So, for example, for myself, I have a list that evolved because after it becomes a habit. So when it's a habit, you won. This is good. You can move on. And, but until there, you have to check every day. And I recommend really every day to do it. And you will see the difference, by the way. I promise you will see.
We put on our emotional masks and our energetic armor and block others from really seeing us and having the chance to understand us in community. It's the world that taught us maybe it's not safe to really be me. Maybe I should try to pretend that I'm happy all the time. So when I work with a group of people in a small group, their system, their bodies, get the chance to show up another way where it's intimate and safe, and it's also not just one-on-one. And then they learn and they believe that they can show up that way out in the real world. And it creates a new body memory of being in community with other people.
People have obstacles to their success. They have obstacles to their career advancement. They have obstacles to their dream job. They have obstacles for their influence. They have obstacles in their relationships. And one of the primary obstacles is communication. It's public speaking. It's the ability to bring out in an oral way what's happening in your mind. And so that's what I get to do in my books. It's what I want to help people do in my mission statement. I want people to realize their potential primarily through communication.
You're not going to get everybody to care for your work. You've got to decide who are the people that for whom it's most important for them to understand your work. So stop trying to get everybody excited about what you do and to care, because guess what? Not everybody's going to care. So really get crystal clear on who is important to you. And more importantly, perhaps, whom can you help the most? Think about them and go after them with your authentic message, your authentic, compelling and memorable message. Find out who it is that really needs to hear what you have to say. And that's going to make things a whole lot easier.
So I'll say just specifically about your leadership team. Let's say it's 10 people or it's up to 20 people. how's the focus? How's the alignment? How's the commitment? And CEOs almost always then rave about it. That, oh, it's great, and I've got the best people, and yeah, they're focused, and of course we're aligned, and look at that poster on the wall, or look at this coffee cup, or whatever, and yeah, they're committed. And then I go out and interview those 20 people, and almost always the CEO was 180 degrees off.
As I was doing workshops, I would say, well, when do people leave their legacy? And people would say, well, when they die, when they leave a job, when they leave a career, when they retire. And I said, well, what about when I leave this workshop? What about when I'm done with this speaking gig? I'm leaving some of my legacy with you here today. And then as I thought more about it, I thought, well, these are crumbs. I'm leaving some crumbs. I'm leaving breadcrumbs, that not everything about a legacy happens at the end. And not everything about legacy is big and monumental. A lot of people think legacies for the rich and famous. I don't have enough money for a building, to have a building named after me. I don't have enough money for a sculpture, or I don't have enough money for an endowed scholarship. And I'm like, well, no, but you can leave legacy in a lot of different ways and in bits and pieces daily.
When you can look at things from many perspectives, that leads to more thoughtful decision-making. More thoughtful decisions lead to better outcomes. And then when you're achieving what you want to achieve as a company, but in a way in which people feel good about it, that really creates the flywheel of you're able to retain your top talent. They're highly engaged. They become your biggest ambassadors for more top talent. So it really starts at how every individual feels at work, but it rolls up to collective business impact.
Thank you for listening to the Authentic Change podcast. I'm delighted that you've tuned in to listen. Please visit the show notes for links to topics discussed in today's podcast. To download a free ebook on authentic change and leadership and to subscribe to my newsletter, please visit mike-horne.com. Once again, mike-horne.com, mike-horne.com. Once again, thank you for listening to the Authentic Change podcast.